Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We are presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got good friend of the program, Cole Zwicker, where we are going to do what is, I don't remember if we did this last year or not. I know we did it earlier this year, but we're going to do a mock draft, back and forth picks, where each of us takes who we think is the best player on the board for each team. So, Cole, how are you doing during this lovely draft week?
It's going well, man. I don't have quite the energy level you seem to have right now. Just running on fumes a little bit. I know you probably are too. So it's bittersweet because it's the best time of year. The draft week is awesome. The actual draft is my favorite day of the year, but just a lot of work into this into this part of the process as far as podcasts, and don't even have time to really write. But I don't take a second for granted. It's all fun.
Yeah, like what ends up happening for me with draft week and like why I'm so energetic right now, I have no idea why I would have energy. I've only had one glass of coffee today because we ran out of milk earlier, and I still have not been to the grocery store yet because I just don't have time. I've recorded 4 podcasts and done 3 radio hits, and I'm doing my mock draft right now as we talk. It's a whirlwind kind of year. Kind of time of the year, you just try and distill as much information into manageable bits as you can and then kind of go from there. It's a great time of year. Like you said, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I'm incredibly grateful to The Athletic to give me this platform that they have given me, and I'm excited to hopefully have it for a while, and we'll see how it goes. But it's just it's a crazy, crazy time of the year, man. I've officially hit the point in my music listening while I write that I'm on My Chemical Romance now.
Okay.
Yeah. Between just the crazy amount of things that have come at my brain and have given me momentary bits of how am I getting all this done? Freaking out. Also, I'm just very disappointed from all of the family separation stuff that's happening in the country. And I'm just okay, I want angry music right now because this is terrible.
And all this is not being helped by the fact that there really doesn't seem to be much certainty at the top of the draft this year outside of 8 and 1. We don't know who the hell's going 2. And last year we had a pretty good idea that it was going to be Lonzo 2, Tatum 3. But good God, dude. It's this year, Michael Porter, Marvin Bagley, Luka Doncic. There's just no certainty, and it has such a trickle-down effect to the rest of the draft. Yeah,
I know I had the most accurate mock draft last year because I'm a freak and check this stuff. But also, I had, I think, 13 of the first 16 correct. I think I hit 18 in the first round correct, dead on picks. If I get 6 in this draft, I will be ecstatic. I'll be holy shit, I did well. There's just no idea. Sacramento is keeping everyone in the dark. Atlanta's actually kept things pretty close to the vest. Memphis hasn't really worked a ton of people out and are very clearly shopping the pick. Dallas, other than Doncic, isn't super happy with what they could be left with at 5 from what I know. Orlando has kept things closer to the vest than almost anyone throughout the pre-draft process. So look, I have no idea what's going to happen on Thursday. And the thing that I have been told though is to expect that the draft order does not look the way it does by the time the beginning of Thursday happens.
That's kind of what I've been saying too. I was just on a podcast with Mo Dockhill, and he was going down the list, who could take who's going to go where, and I was giving him 3 options for each team, and I was basically, I think there's going to be a lot of trade up opportunities here. I think I would probably bank on that.
Yeah, even early in the draft, I think. Seriously, Memphis, very real chance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if Dallas made a move. Wouldn't surprise me if Philly tried to make a move up. Obviously, the Clippers picks are in play. I've heard mixed things about the Denver pick the more I've looked into it. The 14 pick might be in play, but I don't know. It's a little bit trickier than what has been, because a lot of people are reporting that it's just available if you take on Kenneth Faried's contract. I don't necessarily know that that's definitely true.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect they would make a move like that. I mean, there's got to be some returning positive there outside of just cap relief, even though we know that they're going to be in potential cap hell when they max Jokic this offseason. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect them just to deal that just to get off Faried, but probably open. I don't know. Miles Bridges could fall to 14, and I think they run up to the podium if that's the case.
It's what I have in my mock draft right now. Miles Bridges is 14. Yeah, no, the other thing with Denver, too, is they're so good at the draft. You look back through their draft history, they are amazing at it. Nikola Jokic, Gary Harris, Jamal Murray. They've done pretty well in the international market. Who else am I missing here that they've selected recently? Like they've actually, like this front office particularly with Tim Connolly and Arturas Karnisovas has done a great job drafting.
Yeah, Juancho Hernangomez too. That's another big one that they hit. I thought he was a great pick.
We'll see whether or not that ends up being great. I think at the time it looked great though.
Rookie year looked great, and then of course some of the medical stuff is sophomore year. I still have hopes for him, and I think that at that value or at that pick, they already kind of returned the value for that. I think he has some promise.
Yeah. Also they screwed up the Donovan Mitchell thing and ended up with Tyler Lydon and Trey Lyles, and then also took Emmanuel Mudiay. But we'll forget about that.
And missed on OG Anunoby, who's like the exact kind of player that they need. But yeah, every team doesn't get this 100% right all the time.
Yeah, no, it happens. Let's move on. Let's just do this mock draft thing. I'm going to go first because you went first last time. Also, I don't trust you to take DeAndre Ayton at number 1, and that's how I want this to start because I want it to have like at least a semblance of reality. So let's just kind of jump into it. Again, we're going to go back and forth on picks and take the best player that we see available on our board. So number 1, I'm taking DeAndre Ayton. I think this is a very sensible pick. I think he is the highest upside player in the draft. If he averaged as a rookie, I would say 18 and 11. I would not be shocked. I'm that high on him. I am that in on DeAndre Ayton at this stage. I think physically he is the biggest freak that has entered the league since LeBron James. He is like, his upside to me is legitimate, like top 30 player ever at this. Like that's where I'm at with him.
Yep. And we've talked about him probably for like 3 hours on the podcast over the course of the year. So no need to really expand for me, but it seems to be where they're going. I get, his upside, and for me, more of his like high median outcome. I just think he's going to be a really good player overall. He's a safe guy. I don't see how DeAndre Ayton fails at the NBA level. So, I mean, I would go a different way, of course. That's been well established, but I can't really complain.
But it's not because you're not high on Ayton. It's because you like Luka Doncic. And that's fine. Like, I totally understand that. I think Luka's great. The thing that we haven't really talked about on the pod is how we think he fits with Phoenix. I love the idea of him and Devin Booker together. I think it's going to be a great pick and roll combination, pick and pop combination. I like the idea of him being able to shoot to help insulate Josh Jackson and hopefully invert some of their actions a little bit. That seems valuable to me. They need to get a point guard who can shoot. I think you basically have to have 4 guys surrounding Josh Jackson who can shoot. But assuming you believe in Ayton's jump shot at least out to like 18 to 20 feet, not even 3-point range, he is a big step toward solidifying lineups with Josh Jackson and making them competent.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think for me, more so even, he's just an actual real 5, especially as a rebounder. And they've had so many tweeners there, like Dragan Bender can't anchor a defense. He's too slight. He's not a great rebounder. Marquise Chris is more of a 4-5 hybrid. They just haven't had an actual legitimate 5 presence there who has the positional size, the length, all of that stuff. And they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league last year. So I think he's a plug-and-play guy, can pick and pop with Booker in that pick-and-roll setting. I'm not sure if they have enough spacing around them in that pick-and-roll to be high level, but I mean, you just build up from the bottom up. And I think that, it's a good first step as far as getting a center who can actually score and has some on-ball self-creation ability, because that's just something they haven't had.
That's a great point about defensive rebounding. They were 23rd in defensive rebounding rate last year. Also worth noting that they were 30th in effective field goal percentage last year as well. 30th in offense, 30th in defense too. So this is just a bad team last year. Like, I get that everyone is saying, maybe they should look at taking a guy who, you can really trust defensively, as opposed to like DeAndre Ayton, who I'm very positive on defensively, but there are some mixed reports out there on him defensively. They just need everything from a center. They need everything in general other than a shooting guard that can play, with Devin Booker. So I totally understand a DeAndre Ayton pick, and I think it's the right move.
Yeah, they just need, like you said, they just need good players. They need production. They need guys who are just, capable of being, average starting caliber players. And I think Ayton brings that at his floor. So you just have to start adding talent to the mix, and he definitely covers some of the weaknesses on the roster.
Yep. Go on ahead and go to number 2, the Sacramento Kings.
I'm going Luka Doncic. I think he's the best player in the class. I know there's some concerns about if he wants to play in Sacramento, and Marvin Bagley does want to play there because he worked out for them, and there's a tie there. But I just think that he's the best player overall, and they need, similar to Phoenix, they just need good players in their team. They just don't have enough of those guys. They've been in below average for a long time, and I don't think they've had the kind of high-end ceiling outcome player like Luka is, as well as safety to value as a playmaker who can dribble, pass, and shoot. And, he can fit next to De'Aaron Fox relatively well enough. I think that Luka can play off the ball a fair amount. He can also play on the ball. So I just love that safety to value with him at the Kings spot, and to me, he has the highest upside in the class just based on his skill level. If he gets more athletic, just a smidge, we talked about this ad nauseum. So I would take his certainty over a guy like Michael Porter easily. I think Porter at 2 is way too risky, and then I think his ceiling is higher than a Marvin Bagley just based on the role that he plays and how that projects to have value at the highest levels of play. So Luka Doncic for me at 2.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, much like Phoenix, Sacramento was a disastrously bad team last year. They were in the bottom 3 in both offense and defense. They can really kind of go whichever way to try and start this team. And even if you have concerns about Luka Doncic, one place where you should not have concerns about him is offensively. He is a good shooter. He is an unbelievable playmaker in the pick and roll. The De'Aaron Fox fit is interesting, but as you and I have talked about, Luka Doncic has always played best next to other lead initiators. Ideally, you would like to see a situation where he's playing next to a shooter or a guard that can actually shoot, but I think Fox and Doncic, and you play him next to Buddy Hield or Bogdan Bogdanovic. You can play like all 4 of those guys together, kind of too, because they have the requisite size. With Luka Doncic being 6'8", they might get murdered defensively, but that's going to be a very offensively capable lineup. I just like the fit. I like everything about this in terms of whether or not they are going to take him or not, and all of the reports that are out there. Like there's this idea that like he doesn't want to play there, but he did meet with them in Madrid. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. If you don't want to go to Sacramento, you just say, no, I know you guys came to see me, but I have no interest in meeting with you. I have no interest to come play for you. I don't know. Like, I guess that would be incredibly rude, but like, it's not like this would be an abnormal thing either. It's a very bizarre situation that I don't entirely understand. I still have him at number 2 in my mock draft. I'm closer than ever to moving Marvin Bagley there, but like, okay, there's just this small part of me that thinks all of this doesn't really line up. Like the way that I've done mock drafts for years is the simplest option is the best option, and the smartest option is the best option, because while the NBA is not full of rational actors, they are typically intelligent people who do the work. It's so abundantly obvious, in my opinion, that Luka Doncic is like a top 2 player in this class. And I think NBA teams are overthinking it. And Vlade Divac has seen this dude so many times that I just do not understand how it would be possible to pass on him. But it's very real. They really might pass on him.
Yeah, that would be a huge mistake, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, I've made that stance pretty clear over time, but yeah, he's just the clear guy for me. They have nobody that approaches his ceiling and value on that team as is. They just don't have it. Like I like De'Aaron Fox. He surpassed some of my expectations as a rookie, but he's not even on the same stratosphere as Luka as a prospect. So they just got to take the best player. You have to get out of this lull that you've been in for like over a decade, and this is the kind of player that can change your culture. He can come in, his playmaking will be attractive to the fans, but in a winning way too. So you get that primary playmaking, secondary ball handling creation, a guy who can dribble, pass, shoot, high skill level. I think you got to pull the trigger, man. I just don't see a convincing argument to the contrary.
Yeah. Let's move on. Number 3, Atlanta Hawks. I am going to go with Marvin Bagley here. He is the number 3 player on my board. I think he's very, very good at basketball. Cole and I have argued for 2 hours at least on this podcast about Marvin Bagley. What do you think of the particular fit with him in Atlanta, where they don't really have anything that they have to worry about actually, building around?
Yeah, I mean, John Collins was a really good as a rookie. I'm not sure if he's still a move piece for them as far as, you're really going to factor him into the calculus as a high-level player. So I think there are some fit concerns with Bagley and Collins. They're both pretty similar as far as play finishers and pick and roll. You want them both in that role. But yeah, I mean, if you think Bagley's the clear best player on the board, and he's obviously a higher ceiling guy than Collins to me personally, so you just pull the trigger if you really think he's that guy. I don't think that Collins is good enough for you really to draft around.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just an incredible athlete. Like, I want to make sure that that's out there too. Marvin Bagley is just elite of the elite in terms of athleticism. Great motor, applies his athleticism to the floor in an unbelievable manner. Just a really good basketball player. 21-11 as a freshman at Duke while he was 18 years old throughout the course of the entire season, except for maybe, is he a March birthday or a May birthday? I can never remember. So like he might have played like a few games as a 19-year-old, but 64.3 true shooting percentage. To me, again, this guy is Amari Stoudemire. He's going to be a monster offensive player at this level.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this pick probably comes down to him, Jaren Jackson, Mo Bamba. I guess Trae Young would be in play, but I don't really see them taking him at 3. I think that's more of a trade down. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Trae Young thing, from what I've been told, is real. They do really like him at number 3. I don't think that they would take him, or they really like him in general. I don't think they would take him at number 3, I should say. It would not be surprising to me if Trae Young falls to number 9, number 8, maybe even, if Atlanta tries to move up using like 19 and like future picks and stuff and tries to get him.
Yeah, if Atlanta comes away with Jaren Jackson and Trae Young, I might move to Atlanta. So that's to be determined there.
Yeah. Number 4, Memphis.
I'm going to go with the best player on my board, Jaren Jackson Jr. Mm-hmm. I think that for all the reasons I said, high defensive ceiling, probably the best defensive player in the class, in my opinion, by a decent margin. And he's not I don't think he's a great fit necessarily on Memphis short term, because you ideally want him at the 5. Obviously, they have Marc Gasol, Mike Conley. There might be some more NBA ready now players offensively than Jaren Jackson. I do think he can step on the floor and defend at a high level, but fit not great. I just think it comes down to you got to take the best player on the board, and to me, that's easily Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, and look, like, the big thing that I think Memphis is trying to deal with now, because again, like, you know, the rumors are out there that this pick is on the block and that they are considering trying to attach Chandler Parsons to it. And part of the reason they want to attach Chandler Parsons to it is to get some money so that they can go out and find more players who can actually help them this year, because they want to try and win immediately. Jaren Jackson is still 18 years old and will be until September. Like, he is young and he is immature, and it's going to take some time for him to develop. He is not a finished product. But if I was this pick as well, I would take Jaren Jackson. I would just take this high upside kid and build around him on both ends and move Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. Having said that, I don't think Memphis is on the same wavelength even as that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that they're on the one team in the top 5 that just has a different kind of trajectory with the players they currently have on the roster being so established. But I think it's a mistake to always try to go for the win now when you're not really going for the win. Like, they're not beating the Warriors, they're not beating the Rockets. So if you can try to compete, you can try to win games for sure. But if that comes at the cost of building long-term, I think that's a situation you have to avoid.
Yeah. Number 5, Dallas. I'm going with the next highest guy on my board here, Mohamed Bamba. This draft has been kind of chalky so far, which is abnormal for us. Bamba is a guy who can fill the hole that they have at center, be a really good pick and roll partner for Dennis Smith as long as he starts setting better screens. Those two can really grow together as anchors at the point guard and center positions, and then you can just kind of work to fill around them on the wings. I like the idea of him and Harrison Barnes having intellectual conversations throughout the entirety of the season in Dallas. All of it would just be very fun, I think. It makes a lot of sense to me to take a high upside guy, Mohamed Bamba, in Dallas, where theoretically you should have a lot of team building avenues available to you.
Yeah, his upside tail is really enticing. I think he's a high variance guy. Like, there are outcomes where he's not an effective NBA player. I think those are very realistic. But the upside there, if that's your philosophy, absolutely at 5, I think he justifies that pick. He's around there on my board. He's more like 6 or 7, just because, you know, at a certain point his upside is just going to become so alluring. But I mean, if he can anchor their defense at a high level, if he adds the physical girth that we've talked about, as far as gets a little bit more athletic, can operate in that Carlisle pick and roll. If he can be a dual threat eventually and pick and pop to 3 working with Drew Hanlon, that's going to be huge for Dennis Smith. I don't think he's like a DeAndre Jordan type of lob catcher, but he can at least provide some vertical spacing, even though I'm a little lower on that aspect of his game than a lot of people are. But at this pick, it's definitely justifiable. I think it probably comes down, in this case, to Michael Porter, Wendell Carter, and Mo Bamba. I prefer actually Wendell Carter a little bit higher than Mo Bamba. I love the safety to value there, but as far as an upside play, if Bamba hits, he's going to hit big.
Yeah. Number 6, Orlando Magic.
Cool. So we can continue the trend of actual realistic picks. I'm going to go Trae Young here. He's the highest player on my board remaining. They need a primary ball handler so bad that can shoot. So dribble, pass, shoot. Again, one of those franchise caliber changes where he can just step in and he makes the rest of the roster make sense because they don't have anybody who can handle the ball in primary fashion. So he makes Jonathan Isaac better. If Aaron Gordon sticks around, they can play kind of smaller lineups and you actually have an engine to your offense. He can change the culture there. So Trae Young at 6.
Knowing what we know about John Hammond and Jeff Weltman, do we think that Trae Young will be highest on their board, even if they're looking just at point guards?
That's a great question. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I mean, I think ESPN talked about today that Colin Sexton might be a little bit ahead. I just don't see it. If we're drafting for upside and fit in the modern game, man, you're really just banking all on Sexton's character because he doesn't do a damn thing on the floor that's better than Trae Young offensively. Like maybe except for finishing in Sexton.
Yeah, definitely finishes
really high level.
The basket better.
Yeah, I mean, he's more explosive, but I think actually Trae Young's finishing numbers were better this year, weirdly enough. Like it was really close. They were both like 49% at the rim in the half court. So it's not like I don't think Sexton is like Dennis Smith or De'Aaron Fox at the rim. So if he was that player, I could see that. And you could definitely profile his toughness and physicality drawing fouls better. But as far as a guy who can shoot, dribble, and pass, like no chance.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I have Trae Young higher on my board. I am generally a Colin Sexton fan. I think he's very good. Would not take him over Trae Young. The weird name in all of this that I think, like, he fits what Orlando likes to a T is Shea. Like, Shea Alexander fits everything that these dudes look for. And I wonder if we're overthinking this a little bit. Like this team, these guys love length. They love athleticism. They love the ability to be just a high character dude. Shea Alexander fits a lot of this stuff for the Orlando Magic. I don't know. Like, I'm really starting to wonder if this is what happens.
God, dude, that's high. I mean,
it's
I
really
like Shea,
high.
but that's really high. Like, if you're going to take Shea, I think you try to move down, but you can't move down that far, apparently, because his range is like 8 to 11 now, allegedly. But if you can move down a couple spots with the Knicks, for example, or some team like that, I wouldn't take Shea at 6. That's just way too rich for my blood.
Yeah, like, I would say it's like 8 to 13, something in that range, in my opinion. But like all three of these point guards are basically in the same range. Trae's is maybe his ceiling is a little bit higher, but like his floor is probably, I don't know if his floor is a little bit lower, but like there are teams out there who have Trae Young third right now of those three for sure.
Yeah. It comes down to philosophy. If you're talking about lower floor, I think Trae's ability to shoot is always going to make him valuable, and his passing is never not going to be valuable, but the defense could be really low. And it just kind of depends on what you think Sexton's ceiling is or what Shea's ceiling is. I'm not as high in either one of those guys' ceilings. I view them more as like maybe floor median outcome guys. I think that Trae Young, if you draft purely on upside, I think Trae Young's clearly the better prospect than those two.
Number 7, the Chicago Bulls.
That is you.
I know.
Thank God.
Yeah. I think I'm taking Michael Porter. I don't feel great about it. Like, I should feel okay about it, though, just given what my philosophy tends to be on big market teams. With big market teams, I'm a lot more comfortable swinging for the fences because big market teams tend to have multiple avenues available to them in terms of team building. The problem with Chicago is that they're a big market team that doesn't act like a big market team. Like, the thing that I keep mentioning to people is that it is bananas to me that Chicago is not in the Kawhi Leonard sweepstakes. Like, we haven't heard the name Chicago come up yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I never really thought about them as a destination, but it gives them more avenues to take shots, I guess.
Yeah, like, why would you not? So you're Chicago. You can offer up number 7, Lauri Markkanen, and Robin Lopez. That's a really good offer. That is a really, really good offer for Kawhi Leonard. You will have Kawhi Leonard, you'll have Zach LaVine, you will have Chris Dunn is your perimeter, and you have a max contract spot still.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some validity to that. Of course, they try to get the deal done without including Lowry, but I think probably the Spurs would insist on that because they could probably be outbid by other teams, but at least throw your hat in the ring and see where it goes.
Yeah, like this, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, I guess, that they are not in it. But Porter, I mean, 3-level scorer, 6'11", perfect fit, in my opinion, next to Lauri Markkanen. If you want to play him at the 4 and Markkanen at the 5, you have Zach LaVine at the 2. You are set to be the best offense in the league and the worst defense in the league. And that sounds like fun to me. Like, Fred Hoiberg would know exactly how to get the most fun offense out of that group too.
I do like that dynamic offensively. They need a primary creator in that setting to be that high level in offense, but they have the infrastructure. I mean, no other team in the league would probably have two bigs at the 4 and 5 who can run off screens and shoot off movement the way that those guys can. If Porter wants to play Hoiberg brand of basketball, which is off-screen shooting, really maximizing his gravity on those kinds of sets, and he doesn't want a 1-2 dribble pull-up Melo style from mid-range, like he'd be a great fit. I want to play him like Paul George. I want him running off screens and to leverage his shooting. So if he does that, I think that Hoiberg's a perfect coach for him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Injury stuff, I don't know what it looks like, but I know that as the delegate from Chicago, my doctors are the only ones that have seen his medicals so far, I think, seen him in person. Yeah,
seriously, man. I mean, God, there's just so much question marks here. I mean, everybody knows this by now. It just comes down to risk assumption. And yeah, it's easy for guys in armchair analysis to be like, oh yeah, he's the second best talent in the draft. Let's just take him at 7, roll the dice, take him at 5. But if you're like empathizing with GMs and you put yourself in their shoes and the owners, it's like there's a lot of moving parts here, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Cleveland Cavaliers at number 8.
This pick would be a lot more helpful if I knew what LeBron was doing, because then I could really give you more specificity. I think I'm probably just going to have to go best player available on my board, obviously, because I think there's a decent chance LeBron leaves. I'm going to take Wendell Carter out of Duke. Mm-hmm. I love his fit. Just on any team, really. I think he's kind of a modern center in so many ways, especially offensively. If he can improve his lateral quickness at all, we've seen him trim down a little bit after the season. If he can get any more agility, I think that's going to be huge for him. And he's in theory a really easy team building piece. Like if LeBron leaves, you still have Kevin Love, you have Wendell Carter, 2 guys who can space the floor. I think that's actually a pretty attractive 4-5 pairing. You can move Love back to the 4 for stretches and stuff like that. And again, I just think he's the best player available. If I had indications that LeBron was staying and I knew I was going to be playing the Warriors and the Rockets, I would probably lean Miles Bridges here just because I feel like he's a better conducive fit over the next 3-4 year landscape against those teams.
Yeah, no, I totally buy all of that. The fact that Carter is a big body makes me think that you are basically rebuilding if you take Wendell Carter here, because oh God, can you imagine him and Kevin Love trying to guard the Warriors right now?
No, I cannot. And I don't want to.
It'd be hilarious. I love the offensive skill set with Carter. He is going to be able to shoot. He's going to be able to pass. He's going to be able to take advantage of mismatches on the low block. There's a lot to like there. I think I'm just way more worried about defense than you are.
Yep.
I get why you are positive on his defense. I get why, at least for what he is. You know what I mean? Like, I get why, but we've just seen too many of these like slow-footed big men try and get to the NBA and kind of fail, it feels like.
Definitely more risk. I think, again, it just comes down to how much you buy his feet in space, how much you buy his technique, his balance, if those can be areas that you can improve upon. I'm a little bit more bullish, and I'll just always roll the dice on a smart guy like him, like a high IQ player. But yeah, with him, it's like you said, it's long term. If they draft Wendell Carter, I don't necessarily know if that's an indicator for them, but for me, it would read like Wendell Carter might be valuable or really valuable in 4 years. But if you go against the Warriors, if you go against the Rockets, he's not going to be that valuable.
Number 9, the New York Knicks. There's a very competent pick here, and there is the pick that I want to see happen. Which one should I pick?
So one's Knox and one's Bridges, I'm guessing? Or Sexton.
The one that I want to see happen is Colin Sexton.
Okay.
Colin Sexton in Madison Square Garden nightly would be amazing. Oh, God. I'm doing
That's really fun.
Fuck it, I don't care. This Colin Sexton in Madison Square Garden nightly. I am taking Colin Sexton to the New York Knicks. Can you imagine how like hardcore New Yorkers would get behind him? Like they would love that dude.
Yeah, I mean that's from an entertainment standpoint. You're right. That slipped my mind right away. But man, it's your podcast. You got to do what you want to do, man. That'd be so fun though, watching him in Madison Square Garden, because he has the personality that can really handle it. I think he just doesn't give a shit. He's so intense. He's super entertaining. Again, he's like one of the best characters in the draft, probably the best overall character. Infectious personality.
Yeah, look, I mean, if I was really drafting for Knicks fans, like happiness in terms of getting to the playoffs, I'd take Miles Bridges. But like, I kind of don't care. I mean, Colin Sexton in Madison Square Garden is it's too much. I can't pass that up. You mentioned it, the fact that he would it's not just that he would just say fuck it and like not really care. He would embrace that, I think. Like he would be the guy that just the entire city would rally behind. And like, he's a perfect David Fizdale guy. Like, Fizdale, I think, would really enjoy working with like a super tough kid like him, and one who is super physical. And you could share some point guard duties with Frank Ntilikina, and Ntilikina could run off ball a little bit, help him defensively. You'd have a long backcourt, both of whom I believe have +6 wingspans. To me, it's just like so fun to imagine this.
Yeah, it is pretty fun, honestly. I mean, I don't know if, for me, the value wouldn't be there, but from a conceptual fun standpoint, I mean, that'd be a super physical backcourt. It'd be a really fun team to watch because they play both sides of the floor. If Sexton was able to develop and hone his point guard skills, if he was more of a functional defender instead of kind of just like a fake hustle one, like that defensive backcourt would be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I get the concerns. I have him at number 9 because I really buy into all of the competitiveness, the toughness. I think he's a little bit better of an athlete than you do too. I think he is going to be able to get separation. He's just so tough that I think he's going to put his head down and get through it. The question is he going to finish? Is he going to get tunnel vision like he did in college? How does he work with Porzingis? I get all that stuff. I don't care. I just want it to be fun in New York again. Like, New York fans would love that.
Yeah, mission accomplished here then, because I don't think there's a more fun pick than Colin Sexton in Madison Square Garden.
The Philadelphia 76ers at number 10.
Yeah, so this comes down to 2 guys for me. Both of the bridges is Mikal and Miles. I'm going to go Miles here, even though I can't decide between these two. But I think on Philadelphia, they just need a little bit more creation juice. We saw that against Boston. They just didn't have that other guy who could take guys off the dribble. That's not really Covington's game, and Covington is more akin to Mikal in certain ways, just more of a 3-and-D shooter. Mm-hmm. And I think they just need a little bit more creation pop. So adding Miles Bridges, he can shoot off movement, kind of playing their scheme, and he gives them that secondary creation. He can really attack closeouts at a high level. And if they just switch everything, I think that his off-ball defense, which is pretty suspect in my opinion, that gets mitigated if you just switch everything in the playoffs. So Miles Bridges at 10.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I understand that Mikal is the popular guy there. I would venture that they would probably take Mikal over Miles, especially just given the kind of upheaval that has happened in that front office recently. We'll just call it that. Like, Mikal, for people who don't know, his mom works for like the company that Josh Harris owns, and obviously playing in Philadelphia, even guys like Brett Brown, who is friends with Jay Wright, like, he's going to be familiar with him, and Brett Brown is like currently the final decision maker in the Philadelphia front office, which is kind of bananas for a lot of reasons. Just kind of makes a lot of sense to be Mikal, but I think I agree with Cole that I would prefer Miles there for a lot of the reasons that he stated. Also, I think that Philadelphia could really help to insulate his lack of length. Playing guys like Covington, Simmons, Embiid next to him, it would really help, and he could give them like a bit more of a physical guy who could guard on the block a little bit too.
Exactly right. And I just think for this team specifically, just gives them a little bit more juice, even though it's really hard to not take Mikal here because I feel like the fit is so good. But I'm going to lean Miles just for the advantages I talked about.
Yep. Number 11 here. I am going to go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Charlotte Hornets. They're said to be in the market for a point guard. I think that that's the way they are going to go on draft night. There have been some rumors that this is his floor. Honestly, if it's him and Colin Sexton on the board, I would find it hard to believe that Michael Jordan would pass up on Colin Sexton. Just straight up like that. Like, can you see Michael Jordan, like the most competitive dude ever, meeting Colin Sexton and being like, no, I don't want that guy?
No, I cannot. I think that's a very valid point that I didn't really consider before.
Yeah, like I just can't. If Colin Sexton was to fall there, that just seemed like the kind of guy that Jordan would fall in love with. But given that he went number 9 in this thing, I went Gilgeous-Alexander. I like this fit a little bit better than I like the Sexton fit because it gives them a little bit more time with the Kemba Walker thing. If they get a great offer this summer, great. They should trade Kemba and get the value that they can back. If not, Shai can play with Kemba. He can play without Kemba. Kind of gives them a versatile weapon that could eventually replace Kemba Walker at some point. 6'6", 7 foot wingspan, great defender. Can create off the dribble a little bit. Tough kid, quiet kid for sure. But a player that I think would be a very, very good complementary piece.
Yeah, I like that. I think we talked about that on the last mock we did as far as we went back over the teams for Shea, and this one made a lot of sense, both short and long term. I like his fit a lot next to Malik Monk. I mean, I'm still high on Malik Monk. I think he's going to be a good player in the league, and I think they just have a lot of complementing skill sets.
Yeah.
Like Shea can guard bigger guards, allow Malik to guard point guards, but Shea can also initiate the offense. It's kind of a rare kind of player. I'm not super high on Shea's ceiling as a primary creator, but I think that he can definitely do it. And depending on how functional the shot gets, if he can speed up his release, how dynamic he is off the bounce as a pull-up shooter, there's some upside there too. So I like the long-term fit. And this is more in the range I'm comfortable with Shea. I have him a little bit lower than this, but I think that this is reasonable in this range. I think when you start getting into like the 6, 7, 8, that's just a little bit too much and too risky for me, just because I don't think the upside is there long term to really justify the pick. But I like the fit here.
Yeah, no, I think Shea's like more of a 10 to 14 guy than a top 7 guy or whatever. But we'll see what happens on draft night. I can see this going either way.
Yep.
We each get a Clippers pick here. So number 12, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Mikal Bridges. I'm just going to take the best player, even though there are, I think, maybe better situations for him long term. As far as I like to see the infrastructure, like a team like Philadelphia, where you just can see how he fits in and you can see how he's optimized. But from the Clipper standpoint, I'm just going to take the best player available, and he's super easy to build around. He doesn't impact you moving forward at all. He's about the easiest player to plug into a lineup. So I just think that aligns well with their trajectory. Just take the best player who's also a conducive roster fit, utilize him like an off-movement shooter, and then have him defend at a high level in a team construct. So, yeah, number 12, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, not a sexy pick for the Clippers, but a very competent one. He could step in probably next year immediately and start. Right? Like, yep. That's something that's super useful to them. Number 13, I am going to go and I'm going to take Kevin Knox. I am also just taking what is the best player available on my board. Kevin Knox also has the added benefit of being an upside guy, which fits my mentality of big market teams taking shots on upside players because they have multiple avenues with which to build their roster. Knox is 6'9", 7-foot wingspan, 9-foot standing reach. I think he's a 4 straight up, not really a combo forward. Maybe even a 5 at times in different lineups, given the way the NBA is going. Knox is someone who will not be on the board at number 13 on draft night. Just straight up, he's going before that. I would be pretty shocked otherwise. But, he's the kind of high character kid that I think you can trust to eventually get better.
Yeah, he's super young. I've warmed up to him. I think he's more of I think I have him 15 on my board, 14, 15, so maybe a tad lower than you, but this is a range I'm very comfortable with. And he's really easy, like Mikal, to fit in a modern offense with his ability to play the 4 shoot-off movement, so that flex screen action at Kentucky. So I like him there. He's got some upside. I think he's more of a Tobias Harris at his ceiling, that kind of player. I think when you see him projected higher, maybe 6, 7, people are trying to chase Jason Tatum a little bit as far as his abilities, and I don't think Kevin Knox is Jason Tatum. Like straight up, like you said, I think he's more of a 4 than he is a playmaking wing.
No.
Yeah, so I think the Kevin Knox hysteria has gotten a little too overhyped, and I get it. I mean, he's going to kill workouts at that size, shooting the ball off movement and stuff. I don't really know if the IQ stuff is there. Honestly, at Kentucky, he looked a lot to me like the player he showed at Hoop Summit, which was a guy who took a lot of bad shots. You could see the physical talent. We'll see if it manifests. I think at 13 is a very fair spot for him. Yeah,
no, I think it's very, very fair. Number 14, the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, this would be Miles if I didn't take him before. Yeah. This is tough, man.
I would have taken Miles at 13, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. So it wasn't an option on the table. Yeah, there's not really a clear fit. I think a lot of people would point to Lonnie Walker. I'm going to throw a curveball here. I'm going to go Kevin Huerter at 14. I'm going to take my best player on the board. I think he's one of the best shooters in the draft, 6'7".
I love this, actually.
Yeah. Denver they have an established backcourt, but I think you just roll Huerter at the 3, and then you just become this unstoppable offensive machine. You can play him next to Harris, Murray. You have Paul Millsap, Nikola Jokic. I don't know how any team guards that, frankly, especially in the regular season. That's a top 3 offense to me. Just take the best shooter. And I think Huerter, for me, I've just come down so many times in this class. I come back to the fact that what is the most reliable skill set that's valuable in this area of the draft? And I just keep coming back to his off-movement shooting at his size. I just think it's a little bit more rare than he gets credit for.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. He doesn't help to fix Denver's defensive issues, for sure.
No.
That's why, I don't know that I would have done this, but I might have thrown you another curveball as well. I will let you learn about that at some point if he once he goes in this draft. But I'm a fan. I am generally a fan of this pick because he fits a lot of what Denver does in terms of off-movement shooting, the way that he comes off of screens. Gary Harris is a guy who's at least developing in terms of guarding up the lineup a little bit too. So that could help, I think, with Kevin Huerter. Just kind of taking on tougher assignments here and there. But this is a big lineup then, 6'5" at point, 6'4" with Gary Harris, 6'7" at small forward, plus whatever they do at power forward after Millsap eventually departs. It's a very good pick. I actually really like it, even though I have Kevin Huerter at 22 on my board actually, and I still like this pick.
Yeah, I just think it's like, for me, there wasn't a clear-cut selection in this draft. We talked about the Virginia kid. What was I saying? The guy that went back to school, that small forward.
DeAndre Hunter?
Yeah, him. Like somebody like that, archetype-wise, would make a lot of sense. I mean, not for the off-movement shooting, but from a defensive standpoint. There just doesn't seem to be anybody in this range that has that defensive outcome that I'm super optimistic on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to go with Robert Williams at number 15. Guy that I've kind of warmed up to, I would say, over the course of the process. I am like it's you and I have talked about this. We talked about it on the prospect podcasts. Like, I'm worried that people keep calling him like a 1 through 5 switch guy, much in the same way that they keep calling Muhammad Bamba like a 1 through 5 switch guy. I don't really think either of them are that. Maybe they can grow into that at some point, but I think that would take a long ways of development. What I see with Robert Williams is, between him and maybe Marvin Bagley, like, these are the two best rim runners in the class, the two best potential pick and roll guys in the class. And with a guy like John Wall and with Marcin Gortat's contract running out after next year, with Jan Mahinmi's contract being what it is, I would want a guy like Robert Williams to learn and grow and develop, maybe pick up some of the tricks of the trade from Marcin Gortat, maybe pick up some of the tricks of the trade from John Wall as well as a pick and roll partner, and develop into what I would hope would be the best case scenario of what his skill set is.
Yeah, this would have been my pick as well. Robert Williams is the next guy on my board that was available, so I love the fit. He can really get up and down with the pace Washington plays at. He can play next to John Wall when he pushes the ball. That's pretty huge for their system. Gives them a dynamic they just don't have on their roster from the 5 spot. Gortat being older and not capable in space really that much anymore. Jan Mahinmi isn't anything special, of course, and he just gives them a different dynamic there. So I like the pick as far as fit, and I think the value's there.
Number 16, the Phoenix Suns. Go on ahead.
Oh, boy. This would have been Kevin Huerter for me if I didn't already pick him. I think that's another good fit. It comes down to, I think I'm going to take Zaire Smith here.
I was shocked you didn't take him for Denver.
Yeah, so that was another guy I was considering, but I think I've kind of lessened on his ceiling. I think it's still possible, but the likelihood that he reaches it in the upper parts of the draft, I just don't know if that is going to warrant a selection in that area, but I'm definitely game for taking the best functional athlete in the draft at 16. The shooting concerns next to a Josh Jackson, for example, not the most ideal. But, Phoenix, the only thing that hampers this a little bit is Phoenix is trying to win short term, and I'm kind of worried that Zaire is going to get pressed into a role that he can't do. But just long term, for the upside that he could be, again, as the best functional athlete, a lot of defense, if he can improve his skill level at all, I think he easily returns value at 16. Yeah,
I think I agree with you there. I probably would not take him over Lonnie Walker, but I understand why someone would. I don't love the fit either with Josh Jackson on the roster, but yeah. I don't know that it matters. Like, honestly, I just don't know that it matters. He's a really good player, and he's a great athlete, and a really great kid that a lot of people just think is on the come up. They think he's a rocket ship that's going to continue to just kind of shoot through space in terms of his development now.
Yeah, and that's what you're banking on, is a rapid rate of development. It's going to come down to how quickly he picks up on things, how much does he work on his game. He seems like a worker, so that's what you're banking on here.
Number 17, the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that they would be very happy if the board broke out this way because Lonnie Walker fits them really well. Lonnie Walker falling to 17 is something that I can't see happening on draft night. But, this is a team that really doesn't feel a whole lot of confidence, it seemed like last year, in any of its twos. Tony Snell, that was an attempted guy that they were hoping would work. Very good defender, but they just have no confidence in what he can bring offensively, despite him being a 40% 3-point shooter. Malcolm Brogdon is what he is. He's very good. He's very competent. He can run some point, but I like the idea of being able to have Giannis play some point sometimes and have Lonnie Walker as like your de facto one. Play him as a guy who guards your one and tries to annoy them defensively, and then can knock down shots from the perimeter as a high-level shot maker who can attack closeouts. This one just kind of makes sense to me.
I love the fit on offense there. I just think with the role he's going to play, Lonnie doesn't have to be like even a secondary creator, because
great fit with Budenholzer too.
Yes, exactly. So that's another part of this is like Budenholzer developing a guy like this. If you could give him to a coach like that, I think there's a lot of deficiencies in his game, like we've talked about in the past, as far as off-ball defense, his general motor, his focus. But if you can put him with a coach like that who's developed wings in the past, I really like that. And I think defensively he can switch. I feel best about him switching as far as not being like a weak side guy making decisions. The Bucks have a lot of guys defensively that just lapse way too much off the ball. That just kills them overall in their scheme. Like even a guy like Tony Snell just messes up too often. I worry about Lonnie a little bit there, but at this point in the draft, I think there's legitimate upside, especially offensively. If you're putting him in a role where he's shooting a little bit off movement, he's a spot up shooter around Giannis and Middleton, he's attacking closeouts. I think you can really optimize him on that end. Yeah,
no, I think it's a really smart pick. By me, to be honest. No, I love it. I just think it's a really competent fit with the Milwaukee Bucks, and it's a high upside play for a team that could really just kind of use one. I think they could also use some rotation players, to be sure, given that they have Giannis and Chris Middleton. But I think I feel good about Lonnie developing into at least a rotation player.
Me too. I think he's going to be a rotation player.
Number 18, the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, could I get Jonte back out of college and put him in this?
No.
Does that work?
No. Not the way this works.
I think that would have been the pick, by the way. I have a suspicion that they would have taken Jonte at 18. His
dad has come out and said that the Spurs liked him.
Of course they are. Yeah, of course they would. This is a little bit tougher here. I'm going to go another curveball. Just the best player on my board that probably won't go this high, but I think he deserves it, is that D'Anthony Melton out of USC.
Sure.
The work he's done with Drew Hanlon on his shot and like his projection when he shot at the combine, I was pretty impressed. He had like a fadeaway there. He had that spot up that we talked about before. If he can shoot the ball, man, you pair him next to Murray in the backcourt there. That's a really devastating defensive backcourt. He just seems like a really Spursian kind of player, really high-level team defender, just has great instincts. And I think there's some untapped upside. I mean, he has that kind of Marcus Smart role player ability. You hope he shoots the ball a little bit better. He doesn't have Smart's girth, of course, but that kind of player at this range, I think he can be maybe even a low-end starter on a good team, most likely a rotation player on a good team, but as far as a median outcome or even a ceiling, but I just really love the kid, and I think here I don't see a lot of other players that really, jump off the screen to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to me right now as someone who has to pick for Atlanta at 19, and I'm struggling. Just kind of looking forward right now. But no, I think that Melton is a totally fair pick there. I have him at number 25 on my board. I think that he's right in that tier. For me, once you get to this stage where you're at like number 18, from 18 all the way through to like 43 or so, where I have Kenrich Williams, basically the same kind of tier. It's all basically the same kind of tier.
We got Kenrich at 43, man. I'm amped.
Yeah, I mean, you have him at like Kenrich is going in this first round. Like I'm prepared.
Oh,
you're
damn ready.
Like I am prepared for that. No, I mean this is a fine pick. It's a little bit off board, but honestly, I mean there are going to be off board picks in this NBA draft because of what I just talked about. There are going to be guys that go a little bit higher than what people are expecting.
Definitely.
Number 19, the Atlanta Hawks. Oh boy, they have 4 picks, so I have to game plan this out a little bit. I would take Chandler Hutchison if I was them. The reason I would take Hutchison is that they need wings, first and foremost. Everyone needs wings, but this is a team that realistically could really use wings, especially after we took Marvin Bagley at number 3. He's a guy that you trust attacking closeouts. You trust him to make plays for others. And, honestly, like I trust Phil Beckner to get the shot figured out in the NBA. I really just kind of assume that Hutchison is going to be able to shoot the ball from distance.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Honestly, if you think he can hit spot 3, he's one of the best guys at attacking closeouts in the draft with those long strides. If he could definitely pass the ball on the move. I'm not sure if his decision making is elite, but he has functional handling ability in bigger spaces. It just comes down to how much do you buy the shot, how much do you buy him defensively. He has the tools. I wasn't really enamored with his off-ball defense at Boise State. Really aggressive rebounder, though. He'll definitely help you on the glass.
Yeah, and he's a really hard worker, really, really good kid, too. He has the Southern California reputation or whatever, that he's kind of laid back. It's kind of not him, actually. He works his ass off and really tries and wants to get better. So no, I am in on Chandler Hutchison as a prospect, and I have him at number 19 on my board. I do have one player higher than him that is still available, but I didn't really love the fit necessarily.
Yeah, I'm incurring that a little bit myself. At number 20 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay, this comes down to two guys for me, Jacob Evans, Josh Okogie. I'm going to go Jacob Evans just because I feel like he fits Tibbs better there. Yep. And these are two guys that are really close on my board. It's kind of like a McHale versus Miles scenario, but on a lesser prospects. I just trust Jacob Evans to know where he is on team defense. He can make shots. Minnesota just needs wings who can shoot the ball and actually play defense in a team construct, not screw up like a Jamal Crawford, for example. They just need guys who can fill a role around their star caliber players. And I think Jacob Evans at this point in the draft, really high character kid, and he's adept at that switching scheme, playing a lot of switch defense in Cincinnati, being the number 2 defense in the country last year. He's just very well versed in basically a modern NBA defense as far as communication, all of that stuff. So I just trust him a little bit more than Okogie as far as his safety, even though Okogie, I think, does have higher upside. Yeah,
I love that. Give Minnesota all of the wings who could be role players. Just please make Tibbs' life easier. Just so he doesn't screw up their rotations constantly. I love this. This makes a whole lot of sense to me. Evans could even, in a pinch, could even run him as a backup point guard, given the fact that Tibbs seems to hate Tyus Jones for some reason. So it's a win-win.
Oh, it's so good.
21. 21 is Utah. Again, I can't really take the highest player left on my board because I don't think they really need him, to be honest. Even the next 2 highest guys on my board, they don't really need. This gets hard.
It's already hard, man. It got hard for me at 18. It hit a wall at 18.
I'll go with the 3rd highest guy on my board just because I can see him fitting. I'll go with John and Musa out of Cedevita. He is a really, really good scorer. He has a lot more game as a passer and as a driver than what I think he gets credit for. He is 6'9", kind of short arms. I think he has a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, something in that range. But what you're talking about is one of the most productive scorers for his age in Europe, even over the last few drafts. He is really developed into a guy that has blossomed as a polished player overseas. Averaged 12 points a game, something I want to say 21 or so points per 40 minutes while shooting 80% from the foul line, 47% from the field. I think he's a better shooter than what the 31% from 3 says. And like I said, I love the way he makes decisions. I think he's going to be a really, really good bench scorer for a team in Utah that could use a little bit more offensive punch.
Yeah, I actually finally got to run to his tape this weekend. I have him as a first-round guy at the end of the first round. I'm not super sold on him overall. Kind of seems a little bit more like a shot taker than a shot maker as far as just how he shoots the ball. I think he can fill it up, and he's a capable shooter for sure. I'm not saying he's a bad one. I just don't know if he does anything in dynamic fashion. But I do like his positional size, the ability to handle the ball at 6'9". I do think that's going to have some value, and he has scoring instincts. I'm not sure how well all of it's going to translate to the NBA, but we are at pick 21, and he's available here for a reason.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, this pick for me is all about trying to fill a need for Utah. I think that they really just need someone off the bench who can give them consistent offense. Maybe next year that'll be Dante Exum, but you know what? Exum is such a good defender, and they have such a good defensive culture that I think that it would really insulate Musa in terms of what his biggest weakness is.
Definitely, man. So 22 Chicago Bulls. You took Michael Porter earlier for the Bulls in a 4 or 5 pairing with Lowry. This pick comes down to 2 guys for me. Josh Okogie, already mentioned, and Elia Kobo, the point guard. They have all of the point guards, but I'm not sure if they have the right one. I am not as high on Okobo as some other guys are, but I do see the off-the-dribble pull-up game. He's a crafty enough passer. I think he can make it work. But I'm going to go a little bit safer. I'm just going to take the wing in Okogie. I think the upside in this range of of the draft is there. I think he can be a capable two-way player, even though I am not enamored with his decision-making on either side of the floor. But if you rein him in and you put him in a more solidified role, I do think he has the horizontal lateral quickness to be a switch guy. He has the strength, the length. The shot is a bit deliberate, but if he speeds it up a little bit off the catch, and he's much better as a rhythm shooter right now. If he can shoot off movement at all, he becomes a hit in this range. I would just bet on his upside. I think that he has some two-way starting wing equity, and that's really all you're looking for in the 20s.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I think it makes total sense. Okogie is a wing, and Chicago needs wings. Like, you could really have just stopped there. But
I should have done that, actually.
No, but even beyond that, like, I think it's a totally sensible and smart pick, to be honest. They could really use a guy like Okogie. I don't know 100%. He's someone who can kind of freewheel a little bit and like kind of go off script offensively. I wonder how that would work with Fred Hoiberg's offense.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think that just speaks to playing outside of himself on both sides of the ball. I'm not enamored with his decision making. That's why I'm not higher on him. Some guys have him, maybe even borderline lottery. I'm a little bit lower on him than that, but I do get the upside. Like, he has a lot of intriguing qualities.
Yeah. So I have the Pacers here at number 23. I am going to go with Elie Okobo. For a lot of the reasons that you kind of said. He's a really, really good player with a screen. He is a very strong potential scorer because of that ability to get into the lane. He has a little bit more bounce than what I think he gets credit for. Very polished footwork, very polished ability to get separation, good little left to right crossover. Also improved a lot as a playmaker for others throughout the course of the year. He averaged like 5 assists a game over the course of his last 20 games. He's a very, very good prospect, in my opinion. And I know that the Pacers won't take him because they really don't have much experience taking international players in the NBA draft if you go back through their draft history. But maybe that's changing with guys like Domantas Sabonis and Bojan Bogdanovic having been acquired and been such hits for the Pacers this year.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think at this point in the draft, I think that Okobo can be a starting caliber point guard in the league at his ceiling. I'm not sure if he's impactful in like a high level starter, but I do see starting caliber player here. And, he's definitely, I shouldn't say definitely, but he has some allure for sure as a backup at the worst. I think that, but he actually has upside as a backup. I like Jalen Brunson, for example. I think he's one of my favorite players in the draft, but he's more of a second round only guy for me because I don't see really the starting caliber upside. With Okobo, you can see that.
Yeah, no, I like that. Number 24, the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, God. This is interesting. Two highest guys on my board right now are Mitchell Robinson and Troy Brown. And I don't really see them taking either one of those guys.
I am really dumb. I forgot Troy Brown existed. I thought someone took him already.
So I think best player available, I'd probably take Troy Brown, but this is going to be super lazy, but they already have Evan Turner, right? Like that could be Troy Brown's downside. And like, I think that might just scare the hell out of them too much, but
I would have taken Troy Brown at 21 for sure. Like, no question. I just totally forgot he was there.
I guess I just have to take him here. They need a wing, and you just have to hope that he defends and he improves his shot. If he improves his, just his general stance on defense, if he can stop hunching over so much and impacts his balance, his age in concert with being 6'7" with ball skills, I think this is the area of the draft where I feel comfortable rolling the dice on him for sure. It's just kind of like the way the Blazers are built right now. It's more like when now. You could see them talking themselves into a Keita Bates G-Op here. I think he might be able to help them more from the off, maybe give them a little bit better defense, more versatility as a 4. But I'm going to go Troy Brown just because I feel like he's the better prospect and a little bit more upside there.
Would you be willing to trade John and Musa for Troy Brown?
No, I will not, but I appreciate the offer.
I think Troy Brown, you have to take Troy Brown here. He's like number 15 on my board. He's very clearly the best player. I genuinely just thought he was already gone. It's the only reason that he was not selected at, where would I have taken him? I definitely would have taken him at number 19. I definitely would have taken him at number 21. Would not have taken him at 17. So that's my bad.
Draft value, baby.
Draft value for you. I understand the Evan Turner comparison. It's a concern, I would say. It's a very large concern. He is someone that you could easily see falling into that kind of no man's land now, where Turner kind of turned into a pretty solid defender. He's kind of turned into a lead ball handler occasionally. He's kind of a guy who can help you, but there's just that little thing missing, and that little thing is shooting.
And it's pretty enormous in the grand scale of things. So we'll see how it pans out. I love the kid. I want to believe in him, but God, just the athleticism and the shooting concerns I think are very real. But in this range, definitely willing to roll the dice.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Number 25, I like the highest guy on my board and has been for a while now is, like not counting Troy Brown, who I just forgot existed. The highest guy on my board has been Melvin Frazier for a while.
Okay.
Again, I'm taking Melvin Frazier here at 25. He fits exactly what the Lakers want to do defensively, switching like all sorts of different actions. For me, he's arguably the most versatile defender in this entire class at 6'6" with a 7'2" wingspan, all sorts of quick twitch athleticism. He's a legit 1 through 4, like high level defender, in my opinion. Like a lot of guys are switchy and you can call them versatile, but they're going to be better against certain player types, right? Like to me, you can put Melvin Frazier on any of those spots, 1 through 4, and he's going to provide high level defense for you. If he is able to shoot it at all, he is going to be a very good player, I think.
Yeah, the on-ball defense is definitely there. He's one of the best athletes there with the length and the agility, quick twitch combination that you can find for sure. So I get the allure here. I'm a little lower just because I don't believe in the shot. I don't believe in the mechanics, even though he did add the hop to his junior year. It's a bit more fluid. I don't think he becomes anything off movement. But again, there's a reason. I mean, if he could do that stuff, he'd be a lottery pick. So That's kind of what you're just gambling on him. And I think he at least has the conceptual upside as a defensive player to where he can fit in that scheme.
Yeah, no, I buy that. 26, the Philadelphia 76ers.
I got nothing here, dude. Like, honestly, like the top player on my board is Mitchell Robinson, and there's no way they take him here. So, like, what the hell? I mean, off movement shooting, you can talk yourself into Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop. That's so tough. I'm just going to go with Dante DiVincenzo. It's between him and Landry Shamet's actually. Landry Shamet's probably the highest guy on my board, but I soured on him a little bit after the combine. But Dante, just give the Sixers a guy who can shoot the ball. I'm not super high on his upside, but as a bench scorer, maybe he's just a cheap filler option if they don't re-sign Redick and they just need some depth on the wing who can actually shoot and have some physical strength. At least he provides some of that. So that intersection here, again, I'm not sure if I really have him as a first-round guy, but he's a fringe guy there for me. So I think that based on just team need, he makes the most sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. He is, I think, exactly number 26 on my board. There you go. Absolutely a guy who can create his own shot. Absolutely a guy who can knock down his own shot. He can be insulated with all of their length defensively, much in the same way that Miles Bridges can be. Very, very prolific shot maker, in my opinion. He's going to be an awesome bench scorer in the NBA.
I think that's definitely in his range of outcomes, honestly. He's a better athlete than he gets credit for, too. He legit can hit the gears when he attacks closeouts. He's pretty fast, honestly. He has some 2-foot pop. So there's some traits to be positive of. I'm not sure, again, the upside is there, but you're not getting the upside here for the most part. Yeah,
I'm honestly at the point where if I think I might be like underselling him potential-wise, like saying he's, a bench scorer or whatever. He has the athletic upside to exceed that, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him maybe as a lower end starter if he just becomes like a really knockdown shooter off movement. And if you watch Villanova, a lot of this stuff is off not pick and pass, but like catch and shoots. He does a little bit of flare screen actions. Exactly. So it's not like Kevin Huerter where he's sprinting off a floppy set. If he could do that, I think I'd be a little bit more interested in him. And maybe he can. He just, in that scheme, he wasn't showcasing that as much. But even though we saw McHale do that quite a bit his junior year. So if he can shoot off motion, I think I'd become much more interested in him. And if at this point in the draft, sure. I mean, we know he can shoot off the catch.
Yeah. Number 27. This is a tough one because I have a guy who is like pretty clearly the best player on my board now in Aaron Holiday. The Celtics are a team that already has Kyrie Irving, already has Terry Rozier. They have Marcus Smart. They might sign Brad Wanamaker, apparently, from who the hell did he play for? He played for Fenner this year. I think he played for Fenner. They have Shane Larkin potentially coming back. They just have a lot at that position, and I don't really think I can wrap my head around taking him at that spot. If I was drafting based off of what I thought Danny Ainge would do, I think I would probably take Kyrie Thomas. I have Jerome Robinson slightly ahead of him on my board, though. And I think the Celtics particularly could use a guy like Jerome Robinson who can really create his own shot and really potentially be insulated by Boston's defensive scheme.
Yeah, I mean that's the key for me is he's so bad defensively. Like the talk of him going like top 14, like he might be the worst defensive player I've watched all year. That's a first round caliber prospect. Like it might just be the sample that I watched, but my God, the offensive upside is there though. Like we talk about off movement shooting, he's got a good handle. He can shoot off the dribble. There's a lot to like with his offensive game. He actually flashes some really interesting playmaking for others too. Like he's made a couple really nice passes. I'm not sure if he's quite a lead guard, but as far as a secondary ball handler, I can see the allure with him. Like I'm fine with him offensively. It's just the defensive end, man. He better be damn good offensively.
Is Jerome Robinson the next Stephen Curry?
Oh God, my story. Goodness. Like I think somebody said, I think Jay-Z Majlis, and this was a great astute point by him, said that he's more of the CJ McCollum archetype. Not saying he's going to be CJ. He said it's very unlikely to be, but that caliber of player, if he gets to that level of offensive outcome, would be really interesting. But nobody's really CJ.
Yeah, no, like I said, I really like Jerome Robinson. I love that dude as a kid. He is such a high level human being. He talks basketball at such a high level. He's a great IQ for the game. Again, just a very nice kid as well. To have him at number 28 and have him much lower than where a lot of people have him hurts me, because I think I was one of the first people that had him as like a top 35 prospect this year. Like I'm a huge fan of him. I just can't, because of the defense, I can't move him much higher than that. He needs to be such an elite offensive player.
Pretty much, dude. Like that's the key. Is like you have to weigh both sides of the floor, and one side can be pretty impactful, and the other side, I just don't see any way it's even salvageable.
Yeah. The Brooklyn Nets at number 29.
Oh, I got 28, don't I?
Oh, you have 28. Yeah. You have the Warriors. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm about to hit the fun pick of the draft now. I'm going to go Mitchell Robinson here. Just give me all of the JaVale McGee equity right here. Cost-effective player. Just plug him in. He's going to catch lobs, run the floor. This is like the ultimate troll by the Warriors. Turn Mitchell Robinson into like a top 14 talent in the draft with their culture and their whole general ecosystem. So Mitchell Robinson at 28.
I can't decide if I think this is the worst pick in the draft or the best. It's definitely one or the other.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why it's so fun. Like, I have no idea what's going to end up. I mean, everything the Warriors do is usually good. So, I mean, JaVale McGee can turn into, like, an impact player. I wouldn't say impact player, but a salvageable player in the finals. Like, Lord knows what they can do with someone with Mitchell Robinson's tools.
I'm honestly trying to, like, wrap my head around Mitchell Robinson to the Warriors. I mean, this... I hate you
I
so
told
much.
you it was fun,
I hate
dude.
you so much.
I love this pick, dude. If this actually happens, I'm going to melt on draft night. It's going to be the best thing ever.
Like, the thing about this is it makes total sense because this dude needs, like, a very strong culture to really, like, get the best out of him and make sure that he stays on the right track in terms of work ethic and development. And I can't imagine a better one than Golden State. Like,
it was funny. I've been waiting to pull the trigger on him for a little bit, and I realized that there's just no fit. Now I looked at Golden State, and I was mad at myself for not thinking about that in the first place. I should have had that in my pocket the entire time.
It's a really good one. That's a really, really good one. I like that pick a lot. That's fun. 29 Brooklyn Nets. I am going to go with Aaron Holiday. I understand that Jeremy Lin's there. I understand that D'Angelo Russell's there. I would play him with D'Angelo Russell and just be very happy that I have a guy who is a 40% three-point shooter who you know you're going to be able to trust defensively, who's going to create plays for his teammates, who's going to be happy both on and off ball, just a gamer. And I'm happy to take that at Brooklyn if I'm 29.
Yeah, I'm fine with him in this range. I don't have him as a first-round graded prospect just because I don't see the level of dynamic creation, the creation for others at a high level. And, of course, he had the worst game maybe of his career, his last game against St. Bonaventure, when he was just horrendous in that game overall. But he's a knockdown shooter. Off the catch, he can shoot off the dribble, and, you know, he's tough. He has that. He's going to go in the first round, in my opinion, likely because of that pedigree.
He's in the green room. Like, he's going in the first round.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. So I get the allure with him, and the NBA is probably going to like him a lot more than me. But I'm actually okay with him at 29.
Yeah, like him and Jerome Robinson and Dante are the ones where I'm like, these dudes are going high, like, for sure. Maybe not high. Like, they'll all go, I think, top 25, though.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then we have all of them outside of that range. So, you know.
There you go.
I'm okay with that, actually. Number 30 is the Atlanta Hawks. Who are you going with?
Got to go old man Kenrich Williams here, baby. Come on. I got to get him on the board.
I knew you were going
he's
at
the only,
some point.
He's the only first-round graded prospect. And for all intents and purposes, I would likely not take him in the first round because you wouldn't have to, but I do think he goes in the 40s. So this isn't like a huge reach for me. Just take a playmaking wing who can dribble pass and has a projectable shot. I have no idea why he hasn't shot better in his career. He just shoots a better ball than the numbers indicate. But, confidence issues with him as far as creating. We saw that in the tournament against Syracuse. Not going to be... And we just haven't seen. He's more of a 5-on-5 guy where he flashes with the winning plays, the little plays. And I know that Atlanta's rebuilding, and they're probably taking shots at upside. I just don't see a lot of other guys in this area like Anthony Simons. I'm just not comfortable enough with to really project him in the first round.
Yeah, no, I honestly as someone who is Kenrich at 43, I think that's a totally fine pick. I think his range is actually even starting in the 30s at this stage.
Okay,
would not be all that crazy for him to go there. Some of the best players that we have not selected here. We actually went through 28 of my top 30, which makes me feel okay, given the fact that you picked 15 of them. So, I'm pretty cool with that, right?
Yeah, we forgot Keita Bates-Diop, didn't we? That's one guy.
I honestly didn't forget him.
Okay.
Kind of didn't come up for me.
Interesting. I thought you were a little bit higher on him.
I'm a number 27 on my board to finish. I like him, but just not quite someone that I could pull the trigger on. Sure. The two guys that weren't picked were him and Shake Milton, who I have at 30. So 28 of the top 29 went, and all top 26 of my guys went. I have Kyrie Thomas. Here's a good question. How many first round grades do you have in this draft?
That's a great question. I think I'm going to narrow it down to 24 or 26. It's going to be one of the two. I'm kind of debating on Kenrich and Landry Shamet. Those are two guys that could be borderline off, but I might lean towards in. So let's say 26.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit higher on the depth. I have 32 actually. I have Kyrie Thomas and Grayson Allen also having late first round grades for me. I am really starting to buy into Grayson just being a shooter at the next level and being able to provide value that way. Kyrie Thomas as well is just a really great defender who can also knock down threes. He's going to have a role in the NBA.
Sure. And I think Jalen Brunson's the guy for me. I would take him. I wouldn't take him in the first round just based on value of a backup point guard being fungible, but I do think that guy's in the league for a long time. So it's just more of a fungible position. Yeah,
and I have Mitchell Robinson outside of the first round right now, and you have him pretty easily in, right?
Yeah, it's just an upside play. I don't know enough about the character stuff, and that's clearly the biggest concerns with him, even though, obviously he's not a perfect prospect by any means, but on an upside play alone, I just have a hard time putting him down too low, just when we know what he can do, what he did at AAU, protecting the rim, and yeah, I just think the upside is pretty considerable with him.
It's fair. Just going to run through all of the picks again real quick. The Phoenix Suns at number 1. I took DeAndre Ayton. The Sacramento Kings at number 2. You took Luka Doncic. Atlanta Hawks number 3. I took Marvin Bagley. Memphis Grizzlies number 4. You took Jaren Jackson. Dallas Mavericks number 5. I took Mohamed Bamba. Number 6, Orlando Magic. You took Trae Young. Number 7, Chicago Bulls. I took Michael Porter. Number 8, Cleveland Cavaliers. You took Wendell Carter. Number 9, New York Knicks. I took the most fun pick in the draft, Colin Sexton. Number 10, with the Philadelphia 76ers, you took Miles Bridges. Number 11 with Charlotte, I took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 12 with the Los Angeles Clippers, you took Mikal Bridges. Number 13 with the Los Angeles Clippers, I took Kevin Knox. Number 14, you took Kevin Huerter for the Denver Nuggets. Number 15, the Washington Wizards, I took Robert Williams. Number 16, the Phoenix Suns, you took Zaire Smith. Number 17, Milwaukee Bucks, I took Lonnie Walker. Number 18, San Antonio Spurs, you took DeAnthony Melton. Number 19, Atlanta Hawks, I took Chandler Hutchison. Number 20, Minnesota Timberwolves, you took Jacob Evans. Number 21, John and Musa, I took him for the Utah Jazz. Number 22, Josh Okogie, you took him for the Chicago Bulls. Number 23, for the Indiana Pacers, I took Elie Okobo. Number 24 for the Portland Trailblazers, you took Troy Brown. That's way too low for Troy Brown. That's 6 spots at least too low for Troy Brown for where he's going in the draft. Melvin Frazier, number 25, I took for the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 26, the Philadelphia 76ers, you took Dante DiVincenzo. Number 27 for the Boston Celtics, I took Jerome Robinson. Number 28, Mitchell Robinson, You took him for the Golden State Warriors.
Now that is the most fun pick in the draft.
That's a good one. Number 29 for the Brooklyn Nets, I took Aaron Holiday. Number 30, Atlanta Hawks, you took Kenrich Williams. That's like pretty reasonable.
I think so. I mean, the only one I had any consternation about is Dante DiVincenzo in the first round, just because I don't have that grade on him. But honestly, I think that's a defensible pick in that range. So that's the only one I really struggled with. But like the exercise kind of portrayed, at a certain point in the draft, it becomes hard, man. Like around 18, I started to sweat it a little bit. Now I'm a huge Melton guy. I would easily take him there. But that's when you start to really think.
Yeah, like I totally fucked up. And Troy Brown should have gotten like 19. And he ends up going 24. Yeah, and like Troy Brown's a good player, but like if he fell to 24, I don't think it's like totally unreasonable either.
Yeah, I honestly don't. Yeah, it doesn't bother me him going that low. I think his outcome range is kind of fair, frankly. There is some downside to him. I want to believe in the upside so much because he's kind of the player that I usually gravitate towards. But there's a chance that like 24 is actual real value for him. And if he goes, 14 or 15 or something, that might just be a little bit high.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. He's not going 24. No. He's going higher than that. But, what can you do? Cole, I think that's about all I got for you. Do we have any other closing thoughts on this deal?
No, it was kind of a fun exercise. I'm usually not huge on mock drafts, but when you kind of incorporate what you would do and make it realistic, so I'm not reaching on certain guys, it's kind of a fun exercise because I think it gives listeners an idea of how maybe the draft can play out, how the depth is, how much you struggle with decisions as you start to work your way down the list.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I always enjoy doing this because bouncing it off of smart people and just letting it like kind of flow and, actually having to strategically think about this on the fly whenever, someone else is making the decisions and it's not just you making the decisions where you get into your own thought processes. I think it's actually valuable.
Me too. I think for that reason entirely.
Yeah. Cole, tell the people what you got going on right now.
All of the podcasts. So check that out the next couple of days. I'm doing a bunch tomorrow, a bunch on Wednesday. I will try to get something up on the Steppy, and I've been saying this for I feel like 2 months on this podcast. It's like, I'm going to drop big board, and we'll see if I even get to that at this point. So my big board might actually just be a conglomeration of podcasts. So look for that. I'm going to do a podcast at tomorrow night with Sean Darenthal, Odin. We're kind of going to recap all of our thoughts on the entire draft, put everything in perspective. So be on the lookout for that. I can't talk anymore because it's gotten too far down the hole here. But as always, continue to listen to this podcast, and thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, starting tomorrow, I will have like a live draft. So I guess actually today, whenever this podcast goes up, I'll have like a live mock draft that I'll be updating as I need to. Like whenever I get intel, whenever I need to kind of move guys up and down the board. What else? Top 100 board got released today. Did you take a look at my top 100 board?
Dude, I've been so insulated with this stuff. I'm
in the same boat, man. Don't worry about it.
Yes, but I'm definitely intrigued to see some of this. Do you have any like hotter takes compared to consensus?
Yeah, it's actually a good question. So the guys that I noted in the top 30 that I'm higher on than consensus, I have Melvin Frazier at 18, Chandler Hutchison 19, Shake Milton at 30, Jerome Robinson at 28 is now a hot take. Like we're at that
opposite
stage.
way.
Yeah, no, in the opposite way. Like we are at that stage where that's a real thing. I have George King at number 60. I really like him. I think he is like a potential NBA player. Wenyen Gabriel 65, so like draftable. Marcus Derrickson 67, draftable. I have Alonzo Trier at 48. That's probably pretty high for people. Mitchell Robinson 35. That's not really a surprise, I guess. I have Gary Trent at 33.
That's reasonable. I mean, a shooter at that point in the draft, like I think that he can shoot the ball in NBA skill. Like, where do you think he actually goes in the draft? Like 40s?
I think he probably goes 30s. I think it's more that the internet is lower on him.
Oh, the internet's definitely lower on him. I'm not super high on him myself, but again, when you get into the 30s, you're just looking for like who has an NBA skill in a vacuum for the most part.
Yeah. I have Billy Preston at 89, so like very low. I don't think he's very good. Ideen Penova is a guy you and I have talked about. I have him at 78. That actually ended up being a little bit higher than what I figured he would be.
I love that dude. He's so fun.
Yeah, like I really don't buy the body at the next level at all, but
yeah,
I think he'll be a very good European player.
I think Melvin Frazier is your overall hottest take. Having him 18, that's taking a stance, man. I respect it.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely the highest I have someone, like compared to consensus. Because like most of the time, like I really don't go like super wild. I was very high on Shimi Ojale last year. I had him at I think I had him as a top 20 guy. I also had Jawan Evans as a top 20 guy, which
me too.
Probably is not going to work out, but he showed some flashes late last year. Jalen Adams, I have in the top 70.
Okay.
Miles Bridges at 8 is probably a hot take.
That's good. I think that's adequate value. He actually might be 8 on my board as well.
Yeah, but like we're high on him too.
Yes, we are.
I think that's really it, man. Like I really don't think I'm like crazy high or crazy. Like Chandler Hutchison might be like at 19, like a hotter guy.
Yeah, and he's definitely going first round. So, I mean, you're not far off the consensus as far as NBA think there, too. I think, honestly, Melvin Frazier's the one that stands out. I don't think I've seen him top 20 yet, so that's the one that you're planting your flag on right there.
Oh, yeah, no question. No question. I am all in on Melvin Frazier at 18. He's a stud. I love him.
There you go.
Go subscribe to The Athletic to read that entire big board list. We'll be back later this week. I have a couple guests lined up to chat about the NBA draft, both before and after it happens. I'm sure I'll get with Cole at some point, and we will chat about it as well. Subscribe to the podcast. Go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Android, Pocket Casts, whatever y'all are using to listen to the podcast. Go hit that rate, review, and subscribe. Hit all 3 of those buttons. They really help us move up in the ratings during draft week. We will be back later on this week, but until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.